Grady Stiles was a circus performer who was born with deformed fingers and was known by the nickname Lobster Boy. Although he appeared to be an incredible person who turned his limitation into strengths, leading a successful life in his own way. But in reality, he was a murderer in the United States. He inflicted extreme violence on his family members and eventually committed murder just because he disapproved of his daughter's fiancé. Now, he recorded as one of the worst in U.S. crime history. Grady Stiles was born in Pennsylvania, USA, in 1937. At the time of his birth, he was affected by a genetic disease that had been passed down through his family for generations. He was born with only 2 fingers on each hand and disabilities in both legs, requiring him to use a wheelchair from a young age. He spent his entire life pulling a wheelchair and crawling on the floor, using his arms every day. This developed his upper body to an incredible level of strength that was noticeably different compared to the average person. His family had participated in circus freak shows that showcased people with unusual physical features as spectacles for the public. And Grady's family were known as the Lobster family. When Grady Stiles turned 7, he followed in his father and joined the circus. Over the course of more than a decade performing, Grady Stiles eventually grew into an adult. He met Mary, a staff member at the circus he was working at, fell in love, and soon got married. After their marriage, they had kids together. She and Grady had 3 children, with 2 of them, excluding the youngest Donna, suffering from the same condition as Grady. They included the 2 children in the revamped Lobster family, which toured all over the United States, gaining immense popularity. They earned at least $50,000 to $100,000 per season, which is far more than enough wealth. However, Grady had stress from being ridiculed during performances, and to cope, he turned to alcohol. At some point, he began to lash out violently towards his family. Kathy, Grady's eldest daughter, who was 7 months pregnant at the time, could no longer stand her father's abuse and tried to stop him. However, Grady was already deep into his violent behavior and ended up assaulting even Kathy, who was carrying 7 months of baby. This incident put pregnant Kathy and her unborn child at risk of a miscarriage, and she had to be rushed to the emergency room. Fortunately, it is said that Kathy was able to successfully give birth to her daughter through a C-section. Grady's wife, Mary, fed up with Grady's behavior, decided to divorce him as the family atmosphere deteriorated day by day. Donna, the youngest daughter and the only non-disabled member of the Grady family, decided to get married as soon as she turned 15. In order to leave the house as quickly as possible, she fell in love with a young man named Jack who lives nearby, and they continued a sweet romance with the intention of getting married. However, when Grady found out about Jack's existence, he strongly disapproved of their marriage as he didn't like Jack at all. However, Grady couldn't stop their love, and their wedding proceeded. On the eve of the wedding, this crazy Grady called Jack to his house, saying he had something to tell him. Jack visited Grady without any doubt and Grady shoot him with his rifle. When Donna tearfully heard that Jack had died, Grady said,
"I told you I would kill him,"
and smiled. Most definitely, Grady was brought to trial on charges of murder. He admitted to all the charges against him, but showed no remorse or regret for the victim. Instead, he claimed that there was no prison capable of taking care of his serious disability, and that his health had seriously deteriorated due to excessive alcohol and smoking. The judge decided that they couldn't send Grady to prison and sentenced him to house arrest and a 15-year suspended sentence. Grady, who was able to return to the comfort of his home instead of prison, quit drinking for a while and became a decent person. Eventually reunited with his relationship with Mary, they started their second married life together. However, after learning from his past trial that he wouldn't go to prison for his crimes, he began to inflict even more severe violence on his family, causing them immense suffering. Eventually, Grady's wife, exhausted from his relentless abuse, contacted her son Harry, whom she had with another man, and devised a plan to kill the despicable Grady. Afterward, the mother and son hired Chris with $1,500, who lived in the neighboring house, as a killer. In 1992, the 3 of them found Grady and they shot him dead with the prepared pistol. As a result, the marriage of the 2 was called off, and the long-standing fear ended. However, all 3 were subsequently caught on murder charges. Chris, the killer, was sentenced to 27 years in prison. Grady's wife Mary received a 12-year sentence for negligent homicide and conspiracy to commit murder, and finally, his son Harry was handed a life sentence. However, due to Grady's terrible reputation in the neighborhood, almost no one attended his funeral. Only about 10 people participated. And even those 10 refused to carry his coffin after the funeral was over. As a result, Grady was abandoned by people until the very end. Among the 3 killers who ended up in prison, Mary, who was Grady's wife, was released on parole in 2000 after serving 8 years of her sentence. She is now living the rest of her life with her remaining family members in Florida. Chris, who was the hired killer, served 17 years and was released in 2009. Mary's son, Harry, met a lonely end in prison in 2014.